Codenamed Kids Next Door is an extremely fun show that always kept me entertained whenever I watched it, and I think a big reason for that was because of the twisty nature of the show. There were so many reveals and twists in what felt like the most random of episodes at times, and that's what made the show so fun. And in this video, I'll be looking at the various twists and turns we go through in the show and what it meant for the show in general. Obviously, I won't talk about every twist or reveal in the show, so if there is something I didn't talk about, let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. Alright, so without further ado, let's look into the twisting nature of the Kids Next Door. So I'll start off with some of the bigger twists and reveals in the show because that's why everyone is here, I hope. And then I'll talk about the smaller but equally interesting twists that always stick out in my head when I think about some of the crazier moments in the show. They didn't necessarily affect the world of the show as we know it, but they're still worth talking about, especially the apple crumble twist, but we'll come back to that. For now, we're talking about our famously bald leader, Sector V, Nigel Uno. Being bald is unironically a big part of Nigel's identity. He has the Arnold-like football head without the hair to obfuscate it, but he makes it work. That shiny cranium with the sunglasses goes way harder than it has any right to be, and for the longest time, I thought he started balding at a really young age, like a Northern Lion situation, but that's not the case at all. We learned from number 5 that the delightful children from down the lane are the reason why he's bald. We don't know how this happened, but it was before he was recruited into the KND, and it's probably the reason why he joined in the first place. Number 5 deeply regrets not being able to save number 1 and is the reason why she refuses to give up on saving any kid. Could also be one of the reasons why number 1 is the leader over her. The biggest thing this reveal did was show us why number 1 was so against the delightful children. It was personal for him, and he didn't want anyone to go through the same thing he went through. He wasn't even a part of the KND yet and still got screwed over. I mean, they really permanently damaged number 1's hair follicles. It'll never grow back, and he had no choice but to embrace it. At least no one made fun of him in the show, or at least by the time we get to the show, the ball jokes have already been played out. Shout out to the show for not using that as a source of easy jokes against number 1. While we're on the topic, why don't we talk about the delightful children from down the lane, the evilest fusion of kids in the show. I'm also pretty sure they show up the most out of any villain, which makes sense. Who else would be best at messing with kids than other kids? They were set up as the main rival of KND, or at least Sector V in particular, because of it being a 5v5, though the delightful children tend to fight as one unit if they even fight at all. And despite how villainous they were, I mean, they were the ones to make number 1 bald. I do like how they were kids at the end of the day. They even worked with the KND against their adoptive father when he tried to force feed broccoli to children all over the world, which is absolutely going too far. And I like broccoli, but who are they? Why are they fused like that? And why are they such a consistent thorn in the KND side? And what's father's relation to them? Well, in the movie Operation Zero, we get our answer. It turns out that the delightful children were the legendary long-lost Sector Z. They were captured by father and forced into a delightfulization machine, but the machine went haywire and exploded, enhancing the effects of the machine, and I quote, 11 billion fold. The effects of the machine are permanent and stronger than probably expected, and Sector Z becomes the delightful children we know and loathe. As far as we could tell, this is the equivalent of Sector V getting turned by father, so it makes a lot of sense that the two groups are rivals. It also adds a tragic layer to the villains. This is the last thing Sector Z wanted to be, and they're being forced into wanting to grow up and not be kids anymore thanks to father's brainwashing. The last thing they say before they revert back to the delightful children was, tell the kids next door that we miss them. They were loyal and are now forced to fight against the people they love. It's sad because there doesn't seem to be anything anyone can do for them. It also explains how they're able to keep up with the KND so well. They have that training ingrained in them. And if you're wondering how number 1's dad knew about them even though they're still children, well, we do know that they are aware of the Fountain of Youth. It's the same episode we found out about them making number 1 bald, in fact, so maybe they used it at one point or another. Alright, I already mentioned it too a couple of times, but it's time to talk about who father, the big bad of the show, and number 1's dad, Monty Uno, really are. Again, looking at Operation Zero, it was also revealed that not only are Monty and father brothers, making father number 1's uncle, but their father is the ultimate evil guy who ruled the world at one point in time. He forced kids to work in tapioca factories and seemed to be unstoppable, especially since he is way stronger than father. And in an act of rebellion against his own father, Monty becomes number 0 and puts an end to his dad's tyranny by decommissioning him and making him forget everything related to being a villain. Meanwhile, father was too cowardly to help Monty and watch as Monty saved children all over the world and became a living legend. This obviously hurt father, and it was compounded by the fact that Monty was the favorite son. To me, this serves as a big explanation for why father is the way he is now and why he's so gung-ho about getting rid of kids. He lived in the shadow of his brother for who knows how long and couldn't really get the love of his dad despite being the loyal one of the two. His world domination schemes feel like a way for him to prove himself to his dad as well as undoing everything Monty did as number 0. It also probably ticks father off even more knowing that it's Monty's son who usually stops him. Even years and years later when Sector V are all old, father is still hunting down number 1, which is honestly kinda sad. He was scarred as a child and never recovered from it. And if you're wondering about where the fire powers came from, I don't know. It seems to be hereditary since grandfather has powers himself, but we never see Monty use any powers. Not to say he never used powers, especially considering he was the favorite. I would assume he has some sort of abilities. I also hope this means that number 1 could eventually use powers like father and grandfather. We probably would have seen it in the Galactic KND show if anything. What could have been. Now let's talk about the kids next door as an organization. I love the idea of the KND, a bunch of kids coming together to fight adult tyranny using kid logic. My only problem with it was that when you became a teen, you got decommissioned, which is terrifying. You get a plunger to the face and get all of your memories of the KND sucked out of you. I don't think they remember anything that had to do with the KND, including the friends they made and things like that. Tommy remembers everything from his time in the KND, but he didn't decommission himself. He just took his DNA out of the module, which is different. Decommissioning is kind of like in Fairly Oddparents, where you lose your fairies and your memories of them when you're old enough. It breeds fear of growing up, but at least in KND's case, we do find out that not all KND members who become teens are decommissioned. If you're good and loyal enough, instead of being decommissioned, you become part of the teens next door. To just about everyone, these teens went through with getting their memories erased and are part of the teen ninjas. In reality, the teens go undercover and help the KND out from the other side, whether that's through spying, a little sabotage, or whatever else they had the capacity to do. Oddly enough though, we didn't see too many teens who were revealed to be part of the TND. I guess they're still undercover and have no need to blow their cover yet. Maurice was the first TND to be revealed, and it made sense for him to be one. He didn't seem to hate children much and was just chilling. It's not really a surprise he was still part of the KND. The one that shocked me was Chad being part of the TND. I always assumed he was one of the teen leaders, so it was a big shock to me. He was committed to being deep undercover because he sold his part well. A little too well if you ask me. Look, he says he was helping the KND and I'll believe him, but he was definitely enjoying the role a little too much. Learning about the TND assuaged the uncomfortable feelings about growing up. It wasn't a symbol of shedding everything you once stood for anymore. Growing up didn't have to mean giving up everything you believed and did as a kid. Of course, not everyone could know this for obvious reasons, but it was nice to know that the talents of good operatives weren't wasted and loyalty was rewarded in the KND. Alright, so those were some of the biggest twists in the show, so let's look at some more minor twists that I still thought were crazy. And let's start with the reveal revolving around number 3's obsession, rainbow monkeys. It turns out that they were actually animals instead of simply cute, colorful toys. In Operation Rainbows, number 3 is tasked by the boss of rainbow monkeys to track down the real rainbow monkeys when it turns out she's really good at smelling out rainbow monkeys, real or not. She heads to the Rainbow Monkey Island and pretty quickly finds the real rainbow monkeys. Look, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that, but they look scary. I'm surprised that they're outright friendly because they look like they would maul you without a second thought. Have you ever seen a documentary about the warrior apes, the most brutal chimpanzee society? Something like that. And what's with the toxic green drool dribbling down their mouth? There's no way that's not getting you sick at the very least. But past that, I can see the cuteness. They're super affectionate, also very round and super chunky, just like the toys, so at least that's still there. They also could change their colors at will, which is cool. Makes sense why they're called rainbow monkeys. It would honestly be sick if they made rainbow monkey toys that change colors. That would sell gangbusters. Oh, and they also turn invisible, which is kind of weird. I guess it's because they could change their colors to blend into the environment like a chameleon. I wonder what would have happened if the rainbow monkey toys were more faithful to what they actually look like. No way they would have been as successful, right? Number 3 loves the real rainbow monkeys, but I doubt everyone will feel the same as her, though it might have another target demographic instead. I can see number 4 having something that looks like the real rainbow monkeys as a toy, and I mean, I had butt ugly Martian toys as a kid, so I truly can't talk. They were called butt ugly for a reason. It also makes me wonder what other crazy animals are running around that were once thought to be fake. I'm certain that those Yipper cards are real animals, and I won't be convinced otherwise. Alright, finally let's talk about the apple crumble incident. It was an episode and plot that always stuck out in my mind because I don't even know how the show came up with it. In Operation Pink Eye, number 2 has to go full noir to figure out the cause of an outbreak of pink eye at the school. First off, the pink eye looks especially heinous, and I personally blame this and Mucha Lucha for making me terrified of getting pink eye as a kid. Anyway, while investigating, number 2 gets attacked by a water balloon that gives you pink eye if you're hit by it, and I really don't want to know what's in those balloons. Although his old buddy was the one who attacked number 2, said old buddy gets hit himself, prompting number 2 to take him to the nurse's office, which is where we get the big reveal and disgusting twist. The nurse has been giving kids pink eye so that she can harvest the eye crust to make her famous apple crumble. Not only that, it's implied that she uses mucus for the inside of the crumble. Number 2 is built different because after finding all that out, he still eats the crumble. There's no way it's that good. And it really shows why kids hate adults in this world, because not only is that insane, it's par for the course of what adults are capable of doing to kids. If I found out something like this happened, I'd be Team KND for life. You couldn't decommission me hard enough to make me forget something that egregious. It also served as a reminder to kids that you should stay suspicious of adults. We know parents as good adults, and teachers should have had that same recognition, which makes sense. If kids are going to learn from you, they should be able to trust you. Yeah, there was the whole weredog thing, but that wasn't the teacher's fault. That was her ex-husband's doing. And that brings us to the end of this video. Again, I know it didn't cover every twist in the show, and that's what makes the show so good. It always kept us on our toes. So if you want to see another video about the ones I didn't cover, let me know in the comments. Or if this video gets enough views or something, I'll do it. It doesn't take much to convince me. If you did make it all the way to the end, thanks a ton. And before you go decommissioning your friends for fun, have a good day.